I Was the Worrying Wreck from Virginia Tech by Jim Birdsall. 17 years ago, when I was in military college at Blacksburg, Virginia, I was known as the worrying wreck from Virginia Tech. I worried so violently that I often became ill. In fact, I was ill so often that I had a regular bed reserved for me at the college infirmary at all times. When the nurse saw me coming, she'd run and give me a hypo. I worried about everything. Sometimes I even forgot what I was worrying about. I worried for fear I would be busted out of college because of my low grades. I'd failed to pass my examination in physics and other subjects, too. I knew I had to maintain an average grade of 75 to 84. I worried about my health, about my excruciating attacks of acute indigestion, about my insomnia. I worried about financial matters. I felt bad because I couldn't buy my girl candy or take her to dances as often as I wanted to. I worried for fear she'd marry one of the other cadets. I was in a lather day and night over a dozen intangible problems. In desperation, I poured out my troubles to Professor Duke Baird, professor of business administration at VPI. The 15 minutes that I spent with Professor Baird did more for my health and happiness than all the rest of the 4 years I spent in college. Jim, he said, you ought to sit down and face the facts. If you devoted half as much time and energy to solving your problems as you do to worrying about them, you wouldn't have any worries. Worrying is just a vicious habit you've learned. He gave me 3 rules to break the worry habit. Rule 1, find out precisely what is the problem you're worrying about. Rule 2, find out the cause of the problem. Rule 3, do something constructive at once about solving the problem. After that interview, I did a bit of constructive planning. Instead of worrying because I'd failed to pass physics, I now asked myself why I had failed. I knew it wasn't because I was dumb, for I was editor-in-chief of the Virginia Tech Engineer. I figured that I'd failed physics because I had no interest in the subject. I'd not applied myself because I couldn't see how it would help me in my work as an industrial engineer. But now I changed my attitude. I said to myself, if the college authorities demand that I pass my physics examination before I obtain a degree, who am I to question their wisdom? So I enrolled for physics again. This time I passed, because instead of wasting my time in resentment and worrying about how hard it was, I studied diligently. I solved my financial worries by taking on some additional jobs, such as selling punch at the college dances, and by borrowing money from my father, which I paid back soon after graduation. I solved my love worries by proposing to the girl that I feared might marry another cadet, and she is now Mrs. Jim Birdsall. As I look back at it now, I can see that my problem was one of confusion, a disinclination to find the causes of my worry and face them realistically. Jim Birdsall learned to stop worrying because he analyzed his troubles. In fact, he used the very principles described in the chapter How to Analyze and Solve Worry Problems.